Let me recognize the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Estes, to inquire.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of our witnesses for being here today. I mean, today's discussion is centered around an issue that has broad bipartisan support, and the United States is eager to strengthen trade relations with the Taiwanese people. I had the opportunity last month to go to Southeast Asia and visit several countries there, and everyone said that they wanted the United States more engaged in trade negotiations with countries throughout Southeast Asia. Each of us today here has a vested interest in expanding markets and reducing barriers for our constituents to engage in the robust global markets. For the Kansans I represent, Taiwan represents our 9th largest trading partner, responsible for over $314 million in exports. We're an ag and manufacturing state, and it's critical for Kansas farmers, ranchers, aviation, and other manufacturers to have market access to sell products around the world, and the world's ready to buy from us. Trade deals, when done right, strengthen America. It's also important to recognize the trade with the United States will help bolster our friends in Taiwan. Certainly, nothing provides more strength and stability for an island than a strong economic base. Pursuing greater trade relations between the United States and Taiwan should be welcome on the world stage. But we know the Chinese Communist Party is working to close off the people of Taiwan, and they have no interest in seeing a stronger U.S.-Taiwan relationships. I hope this administration makes clear that we support a strong Taiwan from any unprovoked aggression. With that in mind, I want to highlight that all of our discussions around trade so far have been merely speculative and hopeful, as the Biden administration continues to have no real plan to increase trade. This de facto trade moratorium is crippling our ability to provide economic growth here at home and is a giant missed opportunity for our friends and allies around the world. And it only aids the Chinese Communist Party under their Belt and Road Initiative. I want to end by saying that I'm hopeful that all of our trade talk today can focus on how do we desire to enhance trade with Taiwan and how we can turn that into action, and that we can once again lead the world in free and fair trade. Congress is tasked with negotiating commerce with foreign countries in a Constitution, and I urge my colleagues on the left to stand behind their desires for trade by working with Republicans to renew the Trade Promotion Authority. Kansans and Americans will benefit. Mr. Benning, I know the folks of the Kansas Farm Bureau are always eager to see open markets for grain and goods, and I imagine the Texas Farm Bureau is the same. Can you tell me a little bit about the trade agreement with Taiwan that expands market access for farmers and ranchers, and what would that do for your constituents, and do you think the Biden administration is doing enough to help expand that?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. Well, you know, beef has been mentioned quite a bit in my comments, and beef is our biggest commodity in the state of Texas. It's very important in Kansas as well, and I'm very aware of that. So there's things that can be done there. A free trade agreement would help our producers tremendously, and you know, we can produce a lot of product throughout this country, and we need that market. I've already talked a little bit about the current administration, what they've done, and we appreciate that. But quite frankly, we feel like they can do more. But you know, that's kind of a two-edged sword, I guess, so to speak, because we look for markets. Agriculture looks for markets. It doesn't make any difference if it's, you know, something tree nuts or apples that are produced on the West Coast, or beef or other things, you know, through the Midwest. So we're always looking for better markets. And I want to say right now, while I have this opportunity, is I appreciate what I'm hearing today from this committee. I feel like that it can be put on the front burner, so to speak, because that's where we believe it needs to be, and we're not so sure that it's been on the front burner. I'll just kind of sum it up that way.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of saying that over the last couple of years there's not been enough done, and whether you're talking about bilateral or trilateral, multilateral agreements, and particularly just making sure that the United States involvement, engagement, and interaction with particularly countries in the Indo-Pacific region is important, and obviously Taiwan's a big part of that to help with their democracy and their growth there. So thank you all today. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman.